They broke into the Capitol.
They opened the doors and let them walk in. Security was waving them in one after the other.
I could show you the footage of them knocking through the gates.
I can show you the footage of many of them being welcomed in by cops, Bill.
So Megyn Kelly is about to dismantle Bill Maher's completely woke Trump derangement syndrome take as it relates to this upcoming election, the transfer of power, and last election's transfer of power, because Bill Maher still has it in his head that January 6th was the worst thing in American history, and that Donald Trump will claim that he won this election even if he loses, which is weird that Megyn Kelly actually agrees with, which I don't understand why. Especially when you consider everything that went on in the last election and all the things that we've learned about that election in the last 3.5 years, which is that there was definitely some shenanigans. Even Time Magazine wrote an article talking about the shadow campaign to beat Donald Trump. So, you know, I think it's pretty obvious there's another shadow campaign ongoing right now. We're 3 weeks into October, so we're running out of time for October surprises, but you never know what's coming around the corner. And, you know, let's just get into this one.
So what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I know one thing I can guarantee will happen is that Trump will say he won, whether he won or lost.
I agree with that.
Well, that's not a good thing for America,
No,
is it?
I agree with that,
I think
too.
on January 20th, 2025, he'll show up at the White House, whether he's invited or not. And I don't think that's going to be good.
You think he's gonna bomb in if he lost?
Yes. Oh yeah, bomb is a word I wouldn't even throw around lightly.
Oh, stop it! He's not gonna do that.
Right, like there was never an attack on the Capitol, Megyn.
Oh, I hear you, but he's not
That
going to
never
show up
happened.
at the inauguration.
Like they didn't show up at the Capitol and break windows and knock down doors and kill cops and chase.
They didn't do that.
And they didn't break windows,
They didn't
knock
kill
down
cops.
They of course did.
No, they didn't.
Who did? They died of natural causes that day?
Yeah, nobody died that day.
Cops.
No, not true. Who?
Okay.
Who?
Oh,
Just a quick correction. There was somebody that died that day. Her name is Ashley Babbitt, and she was a Trump supporter. Should she have been doing what she was doing? That's up for conversation, but Megyn Kelly is wrong in that assessment. She's right in that no police were killed that day. That's for sure, though.
I don't remember the names.
They didn't. There was Brian Sicknick, who died later after the fact, and the coroner's report did not say it was because of what he had inhaled that day. He said it had possibly accelerated the condition that killed him.
Okay, well, attacked cops. I thought they were
Yes.
I thought they were the law enforcement people. You know, how did we get to this place? I mean, Trump now says he's going to pardon all those January 6th insurrectionists, because who wants to live in a country where the people who try to overthrow the government are seen as the bad guys, huh?
They weren't insurrectionists, Bill.
They weren't.
They were a bunch of numbskulls.
They chased that's so stupid. They chased duly elected representatives out of the building and wanted to hang the vice president for certifying the election. That's not an insurrection?
The people who engaged in violent acts or actually made threats along those lines are all being prosecuted appropriately. And I've said repeatedly, I hope they get the book thrown at them, and they've had it.
So that's
but
not.
You're
that's
so
not
upset about the entrapment that happened of the Muslims after 9/11. How about the entrapment that happened to some of those J6 protesters?
Wait. Wait. Let's go back to what I'm upset about with the Muslims.
That we talked about after 9/11 and the feds getting involved, saying, "Don't you want to?"
Yeah.
So entrapment.
They weren't Muslims. They were just guys.
All right. Well, my point is there are. I'm not going to again. You're making me defend things that I.
Then you shouldn't.
In part,
that are horrible.
But
then don't defend them. Why defend them?
Because it's more nuanced than you're suggesting. They were not insurrectionists. There was never any possibility that they were. I've heard you refer to it as a coup.
They attempted.
Going to take over the government. It wasn't going to happen. It was a protest.
They broke into
it was
the
a
Capitol.
riot.
They broke into the Capitol.
They opened the doors and let them walk in. Security was waving them in one after the other.
I could show you the footage of them knocking through the gates.
I can show you the footage of many of them being welcomed in by cops, Bill. You see, that's the difference between the two of us. I will make a distinction between those who truly behaved badly and those who thought they were having a good time in Statuary Hall.
Yeah, there were some people who just came to meander and wander around. That's true. I've seen the documentary that Alexander Pelosi did on it. It's interesting because a lot of them were just like, oh yeah, it's an interesting place to go, and let's see what happens. There's also footage of people, and there were people who absolutely intended to stop that election. Absolutely. So I don't know what you would call that. Maybe you don't like that word insurrectionist because it got it's too anti-Republican, but that's what it is.
I don't agree with you. I don't think the legal definition of insurrection they don't meet, and that's why it wasn't actually charged. It's it's a leftist dream to try to make it sound even worse than it was. These leftists who didn't care at all when their people were out in the roads killing cops, actually killing, hurting cops, killing others in the BLM protests, suddenly found their conscience when it happened on J6.
Killing cops is always wrong. Doing it in the service of trying to overthrow the government of the United States is a little bit different.
It didn't happen because it didn't happen.
We were lucky it didn't happen. They tried to make it happen. Attempting to commit a crime is bad. Trump tries to commit crimes all the time, like this one. The fact that he doesn't succeed doesn't make it better. It makes it better for the country. Let's see what happens next time. We are not exactly like the detective and the serial killer. Oh, we're a lot more alike than you think. We're actually not that alike, I think.
I think you're right. Yeah. I agree. We see a very different reality. Which is fine. I mean,
it is fine. We have to be able to talk and disagree and still be civil.
I think we're doing a good job.
Yeah,
we're doing as
best as we can.
That's right.
A couple things to correct right there, which Megyn Kelly did a good job of. The people that went into the Capitol that day, they didn't break in. The doors were opened. And first of all, they were locked by magnetically secured locks. They can only be opened by a person pushing the button from the inside. We saw on Tucker Carlson and some of these other places, when the footage was actually released, that the doors were opened by Capitol Police from the inside, right? And Bill Maher wants to claim that these insurrectionists were going after cops. Well, as soon as the cops got out of the way, they proceeded past the cops, right? They went right on past the Capitol Police. They didn't continually or even attack the police at all, right? And Bill Maher's so gung-ho on trying to hold these people accountable, although the main person that was seen on camera multiple times the day before and the day of saying that people need to go into the Capitol was Ray Epps, who was never held accountable for those actions. So why does Ray Epps get this special pass, although everybody else is this crazy, try to take over the government type? And since when does occupying a building consist of trying to take over a federal government that is basically built by representatives from each state, right? We have people from every state that just go to Washington, D.C. and represent their state, essentially, additionally to some of the people that are just stationed there in D.C. But it's just crazy to me how they conflate this, how Bill Maher is able to conflate this into this giant scenario where, he says that they wanted to hang Mike Pence because somebody took an up-close picture of what was it called? A stockades or whatever, a little thing where we hang people, but turns out the thing was like waist high or something. It's obviously not tall enough to be functional, not built to be functional. It was complete nonsense. And we don't know who it was exactly that even brought that thing, at least that I've seen. And, we know how Antifa and BLM and all these people essentially are able to infiltrate this scenario. I mean, what was the one guy? He sold footage. He was a known Antifa. He went into the Capitol. He sold footage to CNN for like $50,000. I can't remember his name, John something maybe, but he ended up having to pay that money back, I think, but maybe not. But anyways, we know that guy wasn't a Trump supporter who went into the Capitol that day. And so without knowing everybody like individually, and I'm not saying that we need to dox these people or anything, but I'm just saying like you can't make this generalization over all of the people that were there when you don't even know the ideology of those individuals, right? And then furthermore, when you consider the riots on 5/29 that happened just like a year or two before, where they set fire to the cathedral across the street from the White House, they attacked multiple Capitol Police and FBI and Secret Service members, caused like 60-some people to go to the hospital, forced Donald Trump to take shelter in the bunker. And then the only thing that you heard about that story was that Donald Trump used tear gas, right? They had to say it was tear gas when it wasn't, to take a photo op with the Bible, right, the next day. And so that was the main story that come out of that. And that was on the heels of the Summer of Love, the BLM riots, the George Floyd riots, where we saw multiple times in these Democrat-ran cities that people were setting fire to buildings, trying to break into police stations, trying to establish their own little town within the town with the Chaz Chop thing. All of this kind of, precedent that was set over what is a riot versus what is a protest, right? We remember the video of the guy standing there saying these mostly peaceful protests with the burning building in the background. And so the mainstream media dictated to the public that a protest, consists of attacking police, it consists of burning buildings, all this type of stuff. And then all of a sudden, when it comes to January 6th, the standard completely changes. The excuses, the cover up, everything completely changes because it's the other side of the culture, of the politics, right? It was Donald Trump as the boogeyman once again. And it just goes to show how the mainstream media has no principles. They're basically bought by the DNC machine. And it's really important that you take anything that you see from mainstream media, you see from independent media, channels like mine even, take it all with a grain of salt. Fact check things yourself. Double check the resources, just anything you can. You can't, it's just a way of life. You can't believe anything anybody tells you just for the fact that they told you, especially if it's coming from the mainstream media. And we've learned that over the past, 12 years, essentially 8 years of Donald Trump and 4 years of Biden and Kamala, that the mainstream media, including Fox News, is not really on your side if you're America first. I'm sorry to say it. If you're a Fox News fan, if you believe that Fox News is representing you, but look at how Fox News treated Tucker Carlson, and look at how they called some of these states for Donald Trump when there was only 1% reported voting in the last election. It was completely curious. We'll just leave it at that, right, when it comes to Fox News. As it pertains to January 6th, there were some bad people, some bad actors, and they were held accountable. They've been held accountable, and their punishment probably was stronger than the crime. So when Donald Trump comes out and says that he wants to pardon these folks, that's probably about accurate, on par with what should happen. If these people have been in jail for 4 years, they probably should be let out, considering the main charge is trespassing, and trespassing laws, as I know them, the first trespass usually consists of a warning and being kicked off the property with a never to come back again, which is something that these people were never afforded. And, especially if it's the meemaws waving American flags, walking around between the velvet ropes, which the Capitol building is a building that was paid for, funded, and the upkeep is funded by our federal tax dollars. So, that building belongs to the people. I don't care if Congress is in session or not or whatever. People should have the right to be able to go in, walk into people's offices, and basically get on their computers and check and make sure that they're doing everything right. There is some privacy involved, but if it's a government paid for computer, where's the checks and balances? Because they ultimately need to serve the people. That's why these people are elected, is to represent us, the people. And if the people don't have the ability to go in and oversee and make sure that these people are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, then what are we? Are we really the republic that we're supposed to be? I don't know. I have to ask the question. And so anyways, I don't believe the January 6th was an insurrection, no matter what the mainstream media, no matter what the left wants to call it. And I want to point out too that Nancy Pelosi is the one that took the blame for this. It's on camera. She took the blame, and that should be the end of it right there. We know the story about how Trump offered the National Guard, wanted to make sure that everybody was kept safe that day, and Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of D.C. both denied it. There's so many things that need to be looked into that will never be looked into, unfortunately. And like I said, we'll never get the full story, and we certainly can't trust the mainstream media's narrative, and we can't trust Bill Maher's take on it because he essentially hates Donald Trump first, right? He hates Donald Trump more than he loves the country, in my opinion. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff, especially if you're an America First type individual, because you are in the right place. Share this video and come visit me on Saturdays at 8 p.m. for my live show, the Jar Openers podcast. I'd love to see you there. I'd love to engage in some conversation and find out a little bit more about what you guys got going on and what you guys are concerned about. So anyways, I'll either see you guys there or I'll see you guys in my next video.